Imagine the entire universe slamming into absolute stillness, like a cosmic photograph taken mid-heartbeat, while inside your skull, thought keeps racing, breathing, screaming, questioning. Every drop of rain hangs like crystal needles in the air, every bird is carved into the sky, every face around you becomes a statue of unfinished emotion, yet your awareness refuses to join the silence. In this impossible pause, you are not just alone, you are awake inside a world that has forgotten how to move, trapped in a museum of moments that were never meant to last. At first, panic would surge like fire through your nerves, because motion is how we measure existence, and without it, reality feels broken. You would try to speak, but sound itself is frozen, trapped in your throat before it can be born. Your own breath becomes a strange companion, the only proof that time has not fully abandoned you, and every heartbeat becomes a countdown to nothing, because nothing is changing, and that is far more terrifying than chaos. Soon, curiosity would begin to fight the fear. You would walk through crowds that cannot blink, through traffic that cannot crash, through storms that cannot fall. You could place your hand inside a waterfall and feel no splash, only suspended power, as if nature itself has been unplugged from its own rules. The world would feel like a dream where you are the only sleeper who knows they are dreaming, free to wander, but unable to wake up. Then comes the weight of endless observation. When time stops, secrets lose their shields, because privacy depends on motion and distraction. You would see expressions people never finished, kindness and cruelty paused mid-decision, truths trapped in half-formed gestures. And with every frozen face, a question would echo in your mind: if they cannot change, but you can think, who truly holds the future in this silent kingdom? Hours would not exist, yet exhaustion would still find you, because the mind can tire even when clocks are dead. You would sit beside frozen oceans and wonder if waves remember how to crash. You would stare at the sun, terrified that if time never restarts, heat itself might one day vanish, leaving you conscious in a universe that slowly forgets how to feel alive. Loneliness would deepen into something sharper than pain. Not the loneliness of being unloved, but the loneliness of being unshared. No laughter can answer you, no argument can distract you, no voice can remind you that your thoughts matter to someone else. Your memories would grow louder, replaying moments of warmth, regret, and unfinished dreams, turning your own past into your only moving companion. With no tomorrow arriving, ambition would begin to dissolve. What is success when progress is impossible? What is victory when there is no one to witness it? You might build towers from frozen dust, rearrange cities like chess pieces, rewrite the landscape in desperate acts of creativity, but even masterpieces would feel hollow when applause itself is locked behind time's closed door. Then a dangerous thought would creep in, quiet but powerful: if the world cannot change, but your mind can, then perhaps reality now lives only inside you. Your imagination would become your last frontier, building conversations, storms, celebrations, entire lifetimes that exist only in thought. You would learn that the human mind can be louder than any universe, and far harder to escape. But even imagination has limits, and eventually, you would crave resistance, surprise, conflict, something that can answer back. Without it, thought becomes an echo chamber, repeating itself until meaning starts to blur. You might begin to question whether consciousness without interaction is freedom or a slow, elegant form of imprisonment. You would start to understand how deeply we depend on change to feel alive. We need seasons to pass, faces to age, mistakes to be corrected, and miracles to arrive late. Without time, forgiveness cannot happen, healing cannot unfold, and hope cannot grow, because hope is always waiting for a future that no longer exists. Fear would transform into something colder and more philosophical. Not fear of danger, but fear that this is forever. That you are the final witness of existence, the last moving thought in a frozen cosmic gallery. You would wonder if stars are screaming silently, if history is trapped mid-sentence, if the universe itself is aware that it has stopped breathing. In that silence, gratitude might finally strike you like lightning. You would remember how precious noise once was, how annoying traffic was actually proof of life, how arguments meant people still cared enough to collide. You would realize that chaos, delay, and even heartbreak were signs that time was working, that stories were still being written. And if time ever dared to move again, if even 1 second returned to the world, you would no longer waste it wishing for stillness. You would chase conversations, forgive faster, love louder, and notice details you once ignored. Because you would know what it means to have a mind.
Perhaps the greatest horror would not be the frozen world, but the lesson it teaches too late. That life is not made of perfect moments, but of moving ones. Of mistakes that lead somewhere. Of delays that protect us. Of endings that allow beginnings to exist. Time, with all its cruelty, is also the only reason meaning can grow. So if your mind stayed awake while time froze, you would not become a god of a silent universe. You would become a witness to the true value of every ticking second, every flawed heartbeat, every ordinary moment you once rushed through. And when time finally returned, if it ever did, you would understand that the greatest miracle was never stopping time. It was being allowed to move within it. Even after motion returned, the memory of that endless pause would cling to you like a shadow that never fully fades. In crowded streets and noisy rooms, part of your mind would still expect everything to freeze again, as if reality were a fragile illusion that could shatter at any breath. You would listen to footsteps with a strange respect, watch blinking eyes like small miracles, and feel every second passing as something sacred, something that could be taken away without warning. Your relationships would change in ways no one else could fully understand. When people complain about waiting, delays, or slow days, you would remember what true stillness felt like, and patience would grow inside you like a quiet strength. You would stop fearing boredom, because you would know that boredom is still movement, still possibility, still the promise that something can happen next. In your silence, you would have learned that frustration is a luxury of a world that still moves forward. Yet not all the scars would be gentle. Sometimes, in the middle of laughter, you would feel a sudden drop in your chest, a flash of that frozen loneliness, reminding you how close the universe once felt to eternal isolation. You might wake from sleep unsure whether time is truly flowing or simply pretending to, and in those moments, your heartbeat would sound like proof you desperately need, drumming the message that you are not alone in motion. You would also carry a strange compassion for the world itself. You would see storms not as enemies, but as signs that the planet is still breathing. You would respect disasters not for their destruction, but for the raw reminder that time has power and direction. Even decay would feel meaningful, because it proves that endings exist, and where endings exist, beginnings are waiting in line. Your sense of purpose would become less about racing ahead and more about being fully present. You would stop chasing distant versions of yourself and start honoring the person who exists right now, in this exact second. Because you would know that if time can vanish, then the only true possession you ever have is awareness in motion, the fragile flame of consciousness traveling through an uncertain future. And sometimes when the world grows too loud, you would close your eyes and remember the still universe, not with fear, but with understanding. You would remember how thought can survive even when everything else stops, how the mind can remain a light in total darkness. That memory would give you courage, reminding you that no matter how chaotic life becomes, there is a core within you that can endure even when the universe itself forgets how to move. In the end, you would not see that frozen moment as a curse, but as a revelation carved into your soul. It would teach you that time is not just a clock on the wall, but the invisible river carrying every dream, every goodbye, every chance to change. And as long as that river is flowing, you would walk beside it with open eyes and an open heart, knowing that the greatest gift is not control over time,